Let's continue to talk about Prince Buthelezi's legacy now. The IFP says it will continue to engage in reconciliatory talks with the ANC as per the wishes of Prince Buthelezi. On numerous occasions, Buthelezi had said that he wanted the IFP and the ANC to smoke a peace pipe following deadly political violence that claimed many lives in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng in the 80s and early 90s. So, to take this discussion further, we're going to be joined by Professor Ntsikelelo, Director of the Center for Security, Peace and Conflict Resolution at Nelson Mandela University. Prof. Breakfast, good afternoon. Thank you for your time with us here on the SABC.
Thank you very much for having me, Lizzie.
All right, so obviously on the back of his passing, tributes continue to pour in. We're paying our respects. And we know that the legacy of Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi is complicated. He was often entrusted with the role of acting president of the country as well. And so from your vantage point, how best would you describe Prince Mangosuthu's legacy?
Well, Lizel, as you pointed out earlier on, that tributes have been pouring, but on the other hand, there has been some kind of, I would say, ambivalence in the sense that there have been some mixed reactions. I don't think that people have been speaking the same language with regard to the passing of Umdwana. I think we need to take the good with the bad and, build upon what he has done in terms of taking the country forward. I've come across many critiques of the things that he might have done that do not sit well with others. But for me, I think at the moment, in honor of what he has done, I think we should just focus on the strong points and his a contribution. And of course, we will, I think, when timing is perfect, explore other shortcomings of Umdwana, because after all, none of us is a perfect. And of course, you mentioned something which is extremely important. The Operation Bulayas of 1998 of the NDF, when we invaded Lesotho. That is quite significant, because our foreign policy is known for having implemented soft power. But when he was the acting president, he showed us the other side of a hard power. But of course, during that time, both the president and the deputy president were out of the country.
No, Prof, you make some valid points. Obviously, we're all human, and there are obviously contradictions and complexities that come with being that at the helm of South Africa transitioning from an apartheid oppressive system into a democracy. I actually want to get into the audience that he was able to also hold with the international community, perhaps even on the continent. And whilst there was, a commitment to economic emancipation, abhorrence of violence as well, there were some contradictions given what was also obviously happening in KZN and various parts of Gauteng. How do you think that has also come to influence his legacy, but just as we reflect on his life and times?
Look, when the ANC was operating underground and out of the country, he was the leader of KwaZulu as a prime minister, and I think Inkatha, when he established it in 1975, I think it was supported by the ANC, but I think the turn of events was when he did not support the sanctions, and also when he did not support the armed struggle of the ANC. And of course, he played a role in terms of demanding for the release of former President Mandela, and participated in the first democratic elections. Though he did that at the 11th hour at short notice, I think he only had 5 days to campaign and pitch his message to his audience in terms of trying to solicit votes. But of course, he did play the role in terms of the democratization process, and he's the longest serving member of a parliament.
Prof, how would you weigh in on the role he played during the CODESA negotiations?
Well, I mean, he walked out of those negotiations because of some of the demands that he made, and accusing both former President Mandela and de Klerk of striking a deal, and accusing them of sort of like sidelining the kingdom of KwaZulu. But I think, thank goodness that eventually, I think they, spoke the same language, and he participated, as I indicated earlier on, in the first democratic elections. I mean, there were some demands, that were met, that he made, because I think both the National Party and the ANC, they gave in to some of the demands that he made, like, for instance, the Ngonyama Trust and so on. And, as you know, the IFP won KwaZulu-Natal as a province. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first premier was Frank Mdlalose in 1994.
Prof, let's fast forward now to 2023. Perhaps as we edge closer to his final days, we saw the rift between the ANC and Nkata obviously leading to violence that engulfed KZN back in the 80s and in the 90s. It continued after 94 elections. But towards the end of his days, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi did have a wish for the ANC and the IFP to reconcile, but it remains unfulfilled. And so we're just looking at what is possible at this point. Now that he is gone, will there be a way to bury the past somewhat?
Yeah, I think, Lizel, we need to bear in mind that Umntwana and former President Mandela, they spoke the same language.
Sure.
Former President Mandela, he never focused on the shortcomings of Umntwana. He focused on the strong points of Umntwana. No wonder they were in good terms. So they enjoyed a good political relationship. That's why Umntwana served, I think, as a minister in that government of Tata Mandela, and even the second government of Tata Mbeki. But now, when you look at the leaders that are at play at the moment, there are a lot of upcoming leaders in both political parties. And of course, I think there are arrangements, political arrangements where they work together. But from time to time, these political parties, they do attack each other. I just hope that they will find each other, or find a way of working side by side, and avoid any political violence, which might pose a threat to the stability of KZN and also the stability of the country.